it was from one of your interviews that I heard you say how to respond if a child does come to you. Well, you have so many amazing statistics to share too, and that's the fact that what is it? Only 1 in 10
Ever tell them.
survivors, yeah, ever even tell. So it's not likely that a child is going to come to you and say this. So I have a couple questions on that. But one of the first things that you said how to respond to them is by saying, "I believe you, and this was not your fault."
Exactly. So often, I think a parent doesn't, or a caregiver or a teacher, they don't know how to respond. And they're
Mm-hmm.
so freaked out by the subject and by the issue that they probably have never talked about or discussed with a child. So, when a disclosure is going on, you need to be so cautious that this is evidence in your hand, and you've got to be very careful to really use reflective listening. So, what you would do
Yeah.
is just repeat what the child said and say, "Tell me more." So
Okay.
that you're not tainting what they're telling you, and you're not trying to shut them down. You're not trying to quiet them. 93% of the time, it's someone you know, love, and trust. So
Yeah.
obviously, your mind is, how in the world could this person have ever done this? There must be some kind of mistake. My child must have misunderstood. I mean,
Yep.
you're devastated. So it's a disclosure is so important, and it's important at any age. Honestly, I've taken disclosures from 80-year-old women,
Mhm.
75-year-old men that have never told anybody, and for them to hear that I believe you and this was not your fault, and
Yeah.
how horrible it is for you had had to carry this secret for 75 years is so horrific. So
Ugh.
at any age, just that compassion and that comfort, and
Yeah.
not shutting the child down, because if you shut them down, they may never speak again. I was shut down probably around 8 or 9. I was in the fourth grade. What's that? 9, 9, 10ish. I went to a teacher and told a teacher
Okay.
I had been raped. And she shut me down and said, we don't say that word in class. And they brought my
Um,
parents in, and my parents said, "Oh, she's just a drama queen. She just lies a lot." And she
yeah.
probably got that word off a soap opera, they told her. So, of course, when I
Oh,
got home, I was brutally beaten for trying to disclose or trying to
yeah.
tell. My stepfather always said that if I ever told, he would kill my mother. If I ever
Mm.
told anybody. So I lived with that fear of trying to protect my mother, trying to protect siblings. So I kept that secret close to my vest for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I think you said
Years.
yeah, didn't you say the average age of disclosure is, like, in their 50s that people will finally yeah.
Finally have the courage. Mhm.
Oh my gosh, and then the 2 things that keep people from, sharing is, like you said, that fear and that shame. I never went through sexual abuse, but I went through a lot of physical and emotional abuse from my father, and I
So
remember the same thing. It's okay. I mean, it humbled my heart too, you know? So, um, I remember telling my friends' parents, people at school, and my grandparents, my extended family knew, so many people knew, and like you said, as you get older and you look back on it, a part of you wonders, like, how could nobody have done something? Not that I would even know what anybody could really do, but I had so much fear. I didn't carry as much shame from being abused because it was very just like one sided of physical abuse. Um, but yeah, looking back, I don't know. It's hard to know what adults are supposed to do. So what is this car method that you talk about and how people are supposed to respond?
so, first of all, I'm so sorry that that happened to you. As a little girl, like, no one deserves to be physically abused. And I know that probably just triggering, sometimes you don't feel safe now because
Mm,
of what happened. But what someone should have done is really interceded in that.
mm,
Obviously, your father needed help. He had anger issues.
yeah.
So there could have been a number of ways that a family member could have interceded and say, this isn't right.
Mhm.
This is a crime. You can't abuse your child, and you need
Yes.
help. And so there were a number of ways that people failed you in that area.
You know, it's
But
crazy. Even the cops came to our house before, and my mom sent the cops. And I remember the cop asking me if everything was okay, but my dad's hand is on my shoulder as he's standing right behind me. And so I'm like, yes, everything's fine. So you just feel so helpless. You feel so alone in this.
Mhm.
Um, so I can see why you got to the point you did when you were 17 and thinking the only way out is is,
Mhm.
suicide. I understand that.
You're just trapped in the fear. So really, when you're taking a disclosure from a child, you need to remain calm. That's the C.
Mhm.
um, because the child is looking at your response. And if you begin to panic or cry or scream, then they're going to think they've done something wrong or something their
Mm.
is fault. And then you need to just ask them what has happened and let them know that you're a safe person to tell. And then use that reflective listening that I talked about, where you repeat what they said and say, "Tell me more," because you just want to keep them
Mhm.
talking and try to write down everything they say verbatim.
Okay.
Even if it's stutter words, just whatever they say, just write it down. Just say, and that way, when you go to a child, when you call law enforcement and you start that process, then you have documentation of exactly
Mhm.
what they said.
Okay. That's good. And
It's
then
even
yeah,
you could turn on your phone. We've got such technology now, and just record the conversation.
and like you said, the second part is going to law enforcement, with that information that you get from them.
And that's where it really fall that's where people really fail because it is generally someone they know, love, and trust, maybe someone in the family.
Mhm.
And so their thought is, oh my goodness, I am about to report on a family member or a close friend.
Yeah.
And what if my child is mistaken and the harm that it's going to cause their life? So they really
Mm.
outweigh the adult's life versus the child's life, and that's sad. It's just I don't have another word for it other than it's just an atrocity. It's so sad.
Yeah. No, that's so true. I think a lot of the people that I told that were adults, I lived in a very small town, and so everybody knew my dad and knew what he was capable of. So I feel like a lot of times people were quiet and didn't go to the authorities because of fear of retaliation, maybe on their end.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
a lot of people were afraid of my stepfather also.
Okay. Did you grow up in a small town?
I did. It's right outside of Savannah.
Is
If
he
you ever
still
read my book, I just changed the location and the names of the people in the book. So
okay?
that's my book is placed in Alabama, but I grew up right outside of Savannah. Yes.
Ah, okay, I'm so inspired by that because 'cause I'm writing my first memoir, and I'm trying to figure out the most correct way to do it,
Yeah,
so you
it's
changed the cities as well.
I changed the city. I changed the yes. The story is true,
Mhm.
but the names of the people and the places are not.
Okay.
And if
Okay,
I had
that's
it
good.
to do again, I probably would have just written it truthfully, honestly.
Yeah,
But there's so many people are litigious, and you just don't know what to do. And you certainly don't. I didn't want to hurt people in my life, but
yeah,
now I've become such a public figure. It's like,
yeah.
when you're on CNN and you're on 700 Club, it's like it's out, cat's out of the
Yeah,
bag.
yeah. It's pretty easy to
So
figure out who you're talking about.
right? I can't put it back in, but
Yeah,
it's all good. It's for, I think a cause that is needed, so needed. And if it takes my story, if it takes people being angry and people being hurt, if it saves one person, then it's worth it. And I'm sorry,
yeah,
it was never that's never been my intention at all to hurt
yeah.
anybody.